Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Theta healer and master organizer Yola Mehmeti is passionate about clearing away the physical, mental, and energetic clutter preventing us from living the life we long for. Her signature process combines a lifetime of the practice of decluttering with 13 plus years as a certified Theta healing practitioner and the principles of the KonMari method. Yola helps her clients to increase clarity and achieve personal and professional growth and freedom by helping them permanently transform their two most important environments, their subconscious mind and their living and working space. Now let's welcome Yola to the show. Welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, where we co-create powerful conscious conversations on the leading edge. I have Yola joining us to talk about Theta healing, how your surroundings affect your life, and what can happen when you release and rearrange things in your life. So welcome, Yola.
Thank you, Angela. It's so nice to be here.
Yes. I like to let everybody know how I come across people like you. And I had the pleasure of working with you and doing some Theta healing, and it was really, really powerful. And so I always love sharing things that I come across that I find really transformative or healing or helpful or something that really impacts my life. So I'm really excited to bring you on the show and have you share about all of this really cool stuff that you do. So,
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure working with you and doing the work with you. So I'm excited for the rest of our conversation.
Yeah. Well, I had heard about theta healing, but I never really knew what it was. So I'd like to start there. What is theta healing? How would you describe it?
Um, it is a healing modality. So it is um, an intentional meditation technique that helps you to uncover your limiting beliefs and programming and patterns, and to help you to release them on a permanent level. And it has the name Theta Healing because the practitioner that is doing the work is using the Theta brainwave. And that's where the meditation piece of it comes, because you're literally going into a theta brainwave, which, by the way, we can all do. So there is nothing special about me being able to do that. We all go into a theta brainwave right before we're falling asleep. And combining the theta brainwave, which is the creative wave, with the energy of all that is, going into that seventh plane energy of all that is of existence, and marrying the two, and the practitioner being the witnesser. So intentionally witnessing the changes that you are commanding to happen. That's where the magic happens. It's like, they have done studies where they had like two pots of flowers, and in one there were people surrounding it all the time, and like witnessing its growth and intentionally being there, and then the other pot nobody paid attention to it, and the one that was paid attention to is the one that flourished. And so that's the concept behind the practitioner doing, the witnessing of the changes that happen, and releasing old beliefs and replacing them with new ones.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so there was a lot of really cool stuff that you just said. So I want to kind of break this down.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's talk more about the brain waves.
Hmm.
So what is happening in theta? You say it's what happens when right before we go to sleep. This is that sensation of falling into sleep.
Yeah.
So can you describe that a little bit more? Is that like a slower brain wave or?
And so the brainwave slows down. So right now, you and I that are communicating, we are in a beta brainwave. We are alert. We know exactly what's happening. The best way to describe a theta brainwave is like when children are playing video games and they're
Mm.
like kind of like lost and you can call their names and like they have like they're just not there. That's what it means to be on the theta. It's so your brainwave slows down into it's like to be honest with you, I don't know what the number is, but it's like per second, like how like your brain really slows down. And then the higher or the slower brain wave is the delta. And that's where they say where the monks and the very highly trained spiritual people, that's where they spend a lot of their times.
Mm.
So yeah, it feels like sometimes I come out of a session and I don't remember a lot of things that happened in the session because I am in that brain wave. And when I first was doing this work, I was like, oh my gosh, did I screw something up here? Because I don't remember a lot of the stuff that happened. And that was the good news, I was told, not to remember because that's how I knew I was in the deepest theta brain wave. Yeah.
Cool. So how do you not fall asleep? I want to hear more about what this experience is like when you're in theta.
That's a very good question. So I also say that as I'm going into theta brainwave, I bring the client with me because everything is energy. So it's this the idea is that we are going as a practitioner, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to that seventh plane energy, I'm going into that theta brainwave. But the truth is that energy of all that is, that seventh plane energy of all that is, it's all around us and it's within us. So we're not really going anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, but we humans like linear things, right? We have days and weeks and months. That's how we measure time, and time is not linear, but that's how we make sense of it. So going into that theta brainwave, what happens is that you just feel very calm and very centered, and I and you can speak to this when you were in that session with me like it just there were times where you kind of like felt not you necessarily but I'm just saying like the client feels like it's like very relaxed and they
Hmm.
will sometimes fall asleep
No.
and and I do my best with my charming self to keep them awake. But I think so for me, the practitioner is I've been doing this work for 13 plus years.
Wow.
So the fact that that I don't fall asleep is because I have trained my brain not to fall asleep by going into that
Hmm.
brainwave. Yeah. But it's just more of a feeling of being very calm. And the other part of it is that your intuition is very heightened. So everything I'm hearing, and because I do it so often, because I'm in a theta brainwave daily working with clients, even when I am just with my eyes open, because I do close my eyes and roll my eyes up, that's a process of going. So the second you're rolling your eyes up and looking up, your brain starts going into a theta brainwave. So
Mm.
again, anybody can do it because if you notice with children when they're falling asleep, like their eyes are half open and their eyes are rolled up. So the eye rolling up is what gives a signal to your brain that you are into a theta brain wave. And then
Interesting.
there's a sensation of feeling calm and just being like in a dream state almost.
Hmm.
But because I've been doing it for so long, I can have my eyes open and communicate with the client in the session or even now, and I can receive information because it's all there. We're all connected to that.
Right. It's just like a muscle that you're
Exactly.
training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. And
Wish
then
abs were as strong as my feet.
but I suppose just go into that state and just intend them to be so.
Exactly. How beautiful.
So the seventh, you talk about the seventh plane. What is that?
Existence. So the seventh, so like we are in the third plane of existence. Like us humans, we are the first plane of existence are the minerals of the earth. So
Mm.
it's just a hierarchy of the different. There are different planes of existence. The fourth plane of existence is where the soul goes to when it passes away, and then the fifth plane of existence is the archangels and the guides. And then the sixth plane of existence is all the laws of the universe, including the law of gravity and the law of attraction. So that's where all the laws reside in the sixth plane of existence. And then the seventh plane of existence is the energy of all that is, creator.
Mm-hmm.
Some call it God, some call it Allah, whatever name you wanted to give. Now, again, this idea there are these planes of existence, and the seventh plane is like the highest and purest level. It's again for us humans to like make sense of it because the truth is it's all around us. The seventh plane of existence is in us, all around us, all the time. So when I say I'm going to seventh plane of existence, I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, here, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But we're telling our minds this, so we feel like
Exactly.
we have a place that we're going, like you said.
Exactly. It's the intention. It's the intention. But the seventh plane of existence is basically the pure essence, that energy of all that is, because it's found anywhere and everywhere. From the very first plane of existence in the minerals, in us, in the souls that pass away, the people that transition into a soul form, and then obviously the guides and the angels and the laws of the universe.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
all around. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that, do you find that there's a kind of like a theme that people come to you for when
Very
when they're like, hey, I think I want to have some theta healing.
That's a very good question. So, I believe that whether you have an amazing talk show like you do, or whether you are a doctor, or whether you have a store, you attract people in your life for a reason.
Yeah.
So, the people that come to me, I can see a theme forming and a pattern. And what is really cool about it is that I often attract people and with that want to work on stuff that I have personally worked on or that I personally need to work on because it's that idea that we teach what we most need to learn, right?
Right.
So I would say like the main umbrella is this idea of being stuck, not having clarity, feeling lost with their purpose, relationships, money. Relationships even with yourself, with your body. And so it's this idea that what attracts people when I put a post out there and be like, this is what I'm doing. What attracts people the most is this idea that, oh my gosh, there are limiting beliefs that we're not even aware that we have. And and it's so cool to know that you can release those limiting beliefs and those patterns so that you can get unstuck. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think the major theme is feeling stuck and wanting to get unstuck.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah,
because we all have an area that we feel stuck in, for the
exactly,
most part.
exactly. Yeah, which is why what I do in theta healing and then what I do with space healing and decluttering, it just the marriage of the two of them is just so it just flows so well together because yeah, even when we declutter the physical on a physical level, that's what we do. We get unstuck
Right.
with clarity.
You must have read my mind because that was exactly what I was going to start talking about is
Yeah, theta.
we're in the zone. Our space, our physical space is really, really important.
Yeah,
And yeah, if we have a lot of clutter around us or things that don't bring us joy, we've talked about this recently about the joy piece, that it really can
yeah,
drain our energy. And there is one thing that I've done throughout my history, my lifetime, is I have this thing about moving furniture. Like I'm constantly moving things in my environment.
yeah. That makes
And
sense.
it's interesting because I remember in my apartment in New Jersey, my friends would come over and they're like, "Wait a second, you rearranged your living room again."
Yeah,
And they could feel, and I could feel, that there was a huge shift.
yeah.
It felt different. The energy flowed differently. So let's talk about this piece, about something that's very, very tangible, something that we look at every single day, our physical surroundings, and how you work with that.
Yeah, thank you. I was always aware of the way energy was arranged around me since I was very little. And and part of that is because I guess I was sensitive. I was a sensitive child, and also I guess I wanted to be in control of things, right? And so when you're a little child, you're just, like anything is like to, you want to do anything and everything to be in control and to make sense of the world around you. But
Hmm.
it was like, for me, I couldn't even play or I couldn't even do homework if there were crumbs of the bread on the floor or if like the pillows were not fluffed correctly and if there was like paper all over. I just could not focus. And then the second I would go and rearrange it and organize it and declutter it, all of a sudden I could sit at my desk and be completely like boom and do my homework and then just be there and enjoy. And so over time I start noticing like how the environment, it was very important to me. I never thought that I would be here and make a living doing that, but that's the beauty of, I didn't know that that was quote unquote my purpose, but I was
Right.
very passionate about it because it's just how it affected my energy. And then so over time, I kept recognizing that every time I let go of something, I just felt lighter. Like I felt like I would lose 20 pounds. It's kind of like when you cut your hair or when you wax your eyebrows. Like the second you let go of like that energy changes. And the reason for that is because everything is energy, whether it's the chair I'm sitting on or the computer or whatever, everything is made of energy. And the reason why we can see the chair and we don't see energy is because the other energy is because of the frequency of the vibration of the energy.
Hmm.
So for me, this idea of decluttering and organizing and having an orderly space has always been important. And the most immediate effect that it has had on me has been this idea to have this ability to have clarity and to feel lighter. The thing is, your environment, whether it's your cyber environment or your virtual environment or your physical environment, it's an extension of who you are.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, what you see around you, what you surround yourself with, is a reflection of how you're feeling on the inside.
It's so true. And then there are people though that feel like they do better in like they have their stacks and piles of stuff.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that?
I find that a lot of artists do that, and I would call that an organized mess.
Uh-huh.
And so and Gretchen Rubin is a New York Times bestselling author, and she talks about this idea of letting go and organizing, and then she says have one drawer in your home where it's messy,
Mm.
because what that allows is that it allows this idea of having giving yourself permission to have that space where you don't have to control everything. And so what happens with those people who want to have their piles, like it makes sense to them, like it makes sense to them to have those piles, and that's okay. um what I would say to that though is the important thing is not about letting go so much. The important thing is keeping only the things that bring you joy. That comes, Marie Kondo obviously is the pioneer of that idea.
Hmm.
And I just never knew before that that's what was happening when I was decluttering. I never intentionally knew that I was only keeping things that brought me joy. And I don't think that I was actually even doing that necessarily all the time until I read her book. But so it's not about letting go, it's about only keeping the things that bring you joy. So it's okay to have those piles as long as they make sense to you. What is important is to have a method to your madness, so to say, and to allow yourself that space of creativity. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, not everything is for everyone, obviously. So some people function better in a mess. However, I would challenge those people to give it a try
Hmm.
of decluttering and organizing, and then allowing themselves that part in that home, in their home or in their office, where they can have that space where they can be free to have that organized mess.
Hmm.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you go through that process of decluttering
Yeah.
that I'm relatively an organized person. And it's interesting the amount of energy when you're looking at something and you're trying to decide, do I keep this or do I let it go? And the stories and the things that come up just by looking at this one thing that you've never haven't used in like 3 years, but
Yeah.
there's like this energy about what it means or what it represents. And oh, I don't want to let this go because XYZ.
Yeah, yeah. It happened to me, for example, when I was going through this. So basically what happened at the beginning of this year, I went through I picked up the book, the Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and it was simply a curiosity experiment because just like you, I'm an organizer by nature, and so I was like, I don't know what she has to teach me, but let me just see. Like, well,
Yeah.
I'm really.
Yeah.
And boy, was I wrong. And I dove in the book, and then I was like, January, as a lot of us make our New Year's resolutions, and I never liked resolutions, but
Hmm.
I just wanted to do. I felt called to do something different. And when I read the book, I realized, wow. And I read the book, and the first thing I thought of was my bookcase with all the books. And I would say that 70% of those books had not been read or had not been finished being
Hmm.
read. And so, and I remember when I organized my bookcase, was so proud of it. And the thought that went in my head is, I have all these books. People are going to think that I'm so smart because I have all the books. And my parents are going to think I'm smart because I have all these books. And my library is in my bedroom. And every time I would wake up, I felt like this heaviness.
Mm.
And there were so many books, I couldn't even pick a book out of the damn library to actually read it, but it just looked pretty. And then when I read after I read the book, the thing with books in particular, with the Con Marie method, um, she says that when you let go of the books that don't bring you joy, and you're not even allowed to even open the book and like read a couple of sentences, you're just hold the book and does it bring you joy? That's the only criteria of the KonMari method. And so she says that when you let go of the books that don't bring you joy, what happens is information starts coming in. Like the information that you need the most starts coming in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine how much more I can actually learn. And the second I decluttered my books and I converted my books, it was this the right email showed up, like immediately, the right workshop, this, that. It was just amazing because I was not holding on to that energy. And the other thing is that the books that you have read, she says that energy, that knowledge is already downloaded in you. Even if you look at the book and you're like, I have no idea what the hell this book is about. Like, I have no clue. Like, that is already in you. And when you need it, you'll be able to access it. You do not need to hold on to the book. And it just, I mean, I did the process converting my apartment for like 11 days straight. I got 5.5 bags, 6 bags, garbage bags with stuff. My friends were very worried because they thought my apartment was a minimalist apartment to begin with, and they had no idea if I was going to have a couch to sleep on or sit on at the end of this process. And yeah, the couch is still there and my bed is still there. And you know what? They look prettier. There is an energy that they just feel better. They look prettier. They just look more alive because they are not surrounded with all this other stuff that didn't bring me joy. And as a result of that, I'm sitting here doing this interview with you. I talked about having my own business for 5 years,
Hmm.
and I never took that leap of faith. I went through this process of letting go of everything that didn't serve me and didn't bring me joy, and boom, I was clear on my purpose. I got clarity on my purpose, and I'm sitting here having the life that I always wanted to have. And so that to me is like so powerful. To me, that is so powerful.
It is. It is. And what's interesting is that when you were talking about how things look prettier, one of the things I realized when this isn't about a physical thing, but when I let go of a program that I had put so much time, love, and energy into, it was my Love Spark program, and for some reason there was misalignment with it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to market that. That was all about relationships. And then I had the show, which was more spirituality, metaphysics. So there was kind of like this disconnect between the two. And I finally, after years, decided to release that program and not give it any more energy. And what I realized is that the show was able to expand and grow into that space that was now created.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with our physical belongings as well, is that they have a chance to expand and breathe. I mean, if we move into a larger house or apartment, we end up just filling it up.
Yeah.
And so I love how you talk about how things look prettier. And it's
Yeah.
like you have that intention that you look at something and you're like, you know why you bought it. It brings you joy, and it adds to your environment rather than this pile of crap that you are just holding on to that's
Yeah.
dragging you down, and you're like, oh, I should get rid of that, or you have whatever story running through your head.
Yeah. I mean, I found myself wearing the same five t-shirts or shirts over and over again.
Yeah.
And looking at the rest of my closet, I'm like, this is so sad. Like, and the story in my head was one day when I'm 5 pounds lighter, or when I do that thing, and I had clothes that were not even me, but I wanted so badly to fit in to that image of who I thought I wanted to be. And that's the beauty of this process of letting go. And because you're literally processing your life, you're processing you're putting your affairs in order when you're going through this decluttering process. And and honestly, Angela, for me, the most important thing that I got out of the whole thing is permission. I was is giving myself permission to be who I am. I don't wear that kind of clothes or that kind of top, for example, or those kind of pants. Why am I holding on to that? Why am I not giving myself permission to be who I am? And I got that. I gave myself permission. And I gave myself permission to let go of things that I need to hold on to this because my grandmother gave it to me. Well, my connection with my grandmother will always be there. I don't have to hold on to that to feel that connection to her. If that thing doesn't necessarily bring me joy and it's not me. You know what I mean? And even for, let's say something, I mean, there are people, I've worked with clients that have had like, they have bought a suit that they have never worn before. It's like, and the tag is still on. And like, and the suit is like $1,000 suit hanging in that. And, you know, there is a piece about letting go and decluttering that Marie Kondo emphasizes, which is when you do this process, you express gratitude for the things that you're letting go. And so that piece is very important because even that $1,000 suit that you never wore, you it taught you that that's not you, and that it's okay to be you, and that you don't have to be wearing somebody else's image of you.
Hmm.
And so was it worth buying that $1,000 suit to learn that lesson? I mean, I'm getting chills right now as I'm feeling this. Yeah, it was worth it. Because to me, to have to give yourself permission to be who you are is priceless. There is no
Right.
price that I can put on that.
So you pair this with theta healing. How does the two of those processes work together? Because that just seems like, because I know how powerful they are alone
Yeah,
as separates. So when you put those together, I mean,
yeah, it's magic. It's mega power. It's magic on crack. It's what I call it. It's magic on crack. Um, so the idea came about. I didn't think of creating it as a container, as an offer, as a business offer like that. I give credit to um, my business strategist, Amy Burks, who came up with that idea after talking to me and like and taking pieces of all my passions and like, oh, wait a second, there is a product here, there is a service. But before I had that conversation with her, what sparked the energy, what sparked the inspiration was that um, with my years, I say my 30 plus years of decluttering and organizing, and with the principles of Marie Kondo's, the KonMari method, um, the two of them, like my experience and her stuff, like I mean, I literally read the book and I'm like, why did I not write this book? But the reason why I didn't write the book is because she was meant to write the book, and that's okay. And what I for years I've been doing this, helping friends and helping people I worked for to declutter their homes. Like it wasn't a business. I would just, hey, do you want to hang out? Sure. Can I come declutter your closet? Like that was my response. And of course nobody said no to that. And so my friend, one of my good friends kept saying to me, why aren't you doing this as a business? And I'm like, because I'm not in the business of going and organizing somebody's closet and 3 months later going and doing the same thing. That's not what inspires me. There has to be something else there. Because I had seen it. I would do it and then I would go there and some of them maintained it, mainly because they weren't using anything in that closet. It would just, so we would just basically fold it up and organize it and all that. And some of them would not be able to maintain it because, and so when I read the book, I realized the missing piece of the puzzle was this not merely organizing, but letting go and only keeping things that bring you joy. So that is the only criteria. And one of the main principles, that and expressing gratitude, is the two main principles that I incorporate with my clients in my services. And so what I realized is that as I was going through this process myself, I realized that I was having anxiety about letting go of certain things. And then what I also realized is, wait a second, there are people who don't even know what joy feels like. Like literally to pick something up and be like, this brings me joy. Like there is no emotion there. Like, so when I discovered the book and the method, the KonMari method, I was like, great, I found the missing piece of the puzzle. I get to work with people and teach them how to do this and go through this, right? It's not just organizing and folding clothes and making them look nice. So that's great. But there was still something else missing, which is like, how do I teach them? Like, wait, they need to learn about what joy is. And I was like, wait a second, I'm a theta healer. I get to give people downloads about all kinds of stuff, including joy. I actually oftentimes starts my packages with a session of where we go through the 5 core beliefs. And guess what the very first belief is in those 5 core beliefs? I know what joy feels like. Like somebody literally will have to muscle test for that. And you would be surprised how often I get a no on that muscle testing. And so that's where I was like, this is so awesome. I can help people declutter and then I can do theta so that I can help them with the anxiety that is rising up as they're processing their life. That's where I marry the two. So we start, if somebody is interested in doing a space healing package with me, we start with theta healing so that we give them the downloads of what joy feels like and all that stuff around, not even like what joy feels like, but I've had clients who are like, I really want to do this, but I'm really scared. So we go and work on why they're scared of letting go of stuff. And a lot of times it's this idea that their stuff makes them feel safe. So it's a safety, it goes into that safety issue of like, it just makes me feel safe. I'm not going to let go of that stuff. So we work on the emotional stuff and then we go into the physical and then something will rise up because it's a process and then we'll work on the emotions that rise up. So I think it's the most holistic and the most permanent way of changing your life by working on the mind and the physical surrounding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, like you said earlier, our physical surroundings are a reflection of our internal, like what's going on inside.
Exactly.
And what you said about we're holding on to things because they make us feel safe. And
Yeah.
isn't that the thing about like why we're holding on to excess weight or we're choosing like certain activities in our life, whether it's like retail therapy where we're buying things that we really don't need, that aren't going to bring us joy past that, that transaction,
Yeah.
or the beliefs that we have. We keep
Yeah.
our beliefs because they make us feel safe.
Exactly. And oftentimes those beliefs are on they're on a subconscious level that we don't even know that's what we are living in our lives, that those limiting beliefs about what makes us feel safe. And somehow we're not safe without all the stuff, like the stuff in here and the stuff around us. I mean, I had a client who signed up to work with me and who would literally not even schedule her first session. Uh, and I was like, you can't, like, people, you have to be ready, right? And then I was like, how about we don't have to think about the rest of the journey? How about we just do a theta session? Just start, let's just shifting your energy. And so we did. We actually did 3 theta sessions before we even got into her thinking of starting collecting her clothes in one spot. Because yeah, so that has been very that's why I'm excited about it, because I get to do the 2 things that I'm the most passionate about, and they are so related to each other that it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to be doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love for you to give the viewers a taste of what theta healing is like. And so we talked about that I would be, that we could do something for me that has come up. Um, so is there anything you would like to say before we get started on that?
What I will say is that what I think would be the most beneficial is to go, and so there are different tools in a theta healing session, and I think what would be the most beneficial is for us to do the digging process. So if you have something that has come up for you and it's bothering you, then the best thing to do about it is to go and do the digging process, because that alone, bringing that awareness to that situation, starts the healing process. And then the other part of the theta healing is just literally me going and literally changing that belief and then giving you the new belief. And that's something that is like, there's nothing really happening, like in terms of like, my head is not spinning around, or, so, none of that stuff.
So you're saying that that would be a boring process to watch
Yeah,
on TV.
exactly. Nothing exciting
so,
about.
so so you're gonna do some digging
Yeah.
and
So the digging part of it, that how I would start any theta session would be the best thing to do. And yeah, and we can work on whatever it is that feels safe for you to do it on camera.
yeah. Oh goodness, all sorts of things that we can talk about. Well, something that I haven't talked a lot about on the show, at least recently, is relationships.
Okay,
It's been
perfect.
on the back burner for a while, so
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm sure there's something juicy in there we can dig up.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And it's something that everybody can relate to, especially with I know for some of my friends, the whole idea of New Year's Eve it becomes like the most daunting day of the, even more so than Valentine's Day, because it's like, oh, who do I kiss at midnight? And I often say, I go to sleep. Like, you don't even need to kiss. Why do I need to kiss anybody? But that's just me, because I'm totally okay with being where I am right now, right? But
Right.
for some, it's very painful to have that, to have that, and I have empathy for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I'm gonna ground my energy. So, do I have permission to enter your space?
Yes.
So what I want the viewer to know and the listener to know is, when I enter somebody's space, my clients, the person I'm working on, they do not feel my blah 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 pound weight. I don't mind saying my weight. I just honestly do not know what my weight is right now. So they do not feel it. It's more think of it as plugging in your phone, connecting your phone to a charger. So I'm tapping into your energy, and because we all have free will and we have our bubble of protection, our personal bubble, you always ask permission to enter the person's
Yeah.
space. You don't just
Yeah.
barge in there and start pulling things. Um,
We would like to be of integrity.
exactly, exactly. Okay. So, what in particular, what's going on with you when it comes to relationships?
There's nothing going on.
That's the problem. Okay.
So, what's going on is that I am 42
Okay.
and I am really loving my business and the show and the direction it's taking me. Um, I want to kind of be a nomad and travel the world, take the show on the road. Yet, I also, part of me wants to be in a relationship, get married, and have a baby. So I'm feeling this like this kind of pull between not actually I'm not really feeling the pull. I'm more so focused on my business that I don't really think too much about this, but I don't want this opportunity to pass me by because I'm so focused on the show.
Yeah. Okay. So you do want the relationship and that family life, and you still want the show. And so what would be the worst thing about having them both?
I guess I don't believe I can have both
Okay. Why can't you have them both?
because traveling a lot,
Hmm.
I see I just see them as two very different lifestyles.
Hmm. And you don't believe that they can coexist.
I'm sure they can coexist.
Yeah. Because if
I don't believe necessarily that they'll coexist for me.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because if we are talking about your most compatible soulmate here, and your purpose, like this show, right? The show and all the other amazing projects that you have going on, they're part of you fulfilling your purpose. So, and being in love and being with your most compatible soulmate, and I say most compatible soulmate because we do have more than one. Um, Being with your most compatible soulmate, like that's also part of you fulfilling your purpose. So there is no real competition going on except in your ego,
Right.
right? So the perfect person for you, that most compatible soulmate, he would be the most compatible soulmate because he would be the one willing to travel and do this lifestyle with you. What is the worst thing about meeting your most compatible soulmate?
So in the past, when I have been in love, I have had the pattern of kind of putting myself to the side or putting like my focus shifts. And so I'm focusing more on my partner than what I should be doing. So I get a little distracted by,
Yeah.
oh, the love and, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And there is a part of me that is really wants to, I have this drive. I want to achieve these things and I really love that. But yeah, there's
So
that
you get
piece.
distracted, right? You get distracted.
Distracted, yeah.
What is what is the worst thing about being distracted from your purpose? What's the worst thing about like losing that self-focus and putting all of your love and attention to this other person?
Because then I think that I would feel like I denied myself for what I was supposed to be doing. Like I what comes to mind is put myself on the back burner.
Yeah. And what happens to you if you put yourself on the back burner?
I get overly concerned or wrapped up in my partner's business.
Yeah.
Like what, like
Yeah.
I end up being like the caretaker, the nurturer, the cheerleader, and I'm focusing more on helping them achieve their dreams, and mine just kind of
Yeah.
go bye bye.
Yeah. What's the best thing about supporting your partner and being there and present? What's the best thing about that?
Well, it also fuels my desire to achieve and feel successful.
Mhm.
And if my partner is being successful, um, that I also recognize that as something that I've helped with.
Yeah,
So it also fills me up, brings me joy.
excellent. On the other hand, what is the worst thing about not paying attention to your purpose and to your other purpose, right? Because being a partner with someone, that's part of you fulfilling your purpose for him and for the both of you. But what is the worst thing about you not paying attention to your purpose, to the other part of your purpose?
Well, I feel like I didn't do my best to achieve what I was here to achieve and
So
to
you
create, yeah, have the impact that I'm here to have on people.
and what's the worst thing about failing to do that?
I guess regret,
Yeah.
like
Live with
putting someone over myself.
yeah, and having regret at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
What is your first memory when you were a child that you felt regret, that you were filled with regret? What's your first memory of that?
What comes to mind is being at a daycare,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure why this would be regret, but um, it was muddy outside, and we were climbing on these big, huge tires, and I fell. I got all muddy.
Hmm. And how were you feeling in that moment when you fell down? And
Very embarrassed.
what else were you feeling?
I was feeling ashamed,
Hmm. What else? Were you feeling sad?
sad. Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like you failed at something? You failed at keeping up with the rest of your friends and
Yeah, definitely, because I was all wet and muddy and dirty, and so yeah, embarrassed and ashamed was
Mhm. How old were you?
like 5.
Mhm. Okay. As you have tapped into that energy, who did you decide to become and be because of this situation, because of this experience? Who did Angela become? What positive things came out of you feeling this shame, this embarrassment, this sadness, this feeling of regret and failure? Who did you decide to become from that moment on? How did this experience serve you? What did you learn?
Something about always being put together, um, and in a way, not taking risks,
Playing it safe.
playing it safe.
How would you put that into a more positive um, way of saying it? Perhaps being conscious and being aware, having awareness.
Yes, yeah.
Wait, isn't that part of your the title of your show?
Awakened.
Yeah, I was thinking of,
Yeah.
but awareness awakened is the same energy, right? Um, what else did you learn? Like how did this feeling of being embarrassed and being ashamed, who did you decide to be and become because of that feeling?
Well, I think it strengthened like myself internally. Like I'm not sure I can put words to it, but just like more solid core.
Hmm.
Like, I got through it and nothing horrible happened.
Right. So it made you stronger,
Mm-hmm.
gave you that inner strength, that resilience, right?
Right.
You didn't like fall apart.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. You can open your eyes when you're ready.
Okay.
So, just to give a recap of what has happened so far, it started with I want to meet my most compatible soulmate. And we were digging and digging and digging to find that the bottom belief is that if I meet my most compatible soulmate, I will have regrets. I will live with
Mm.
regrets. I will regret it.
Yeah.
Like that's the bottom belief, right? That's the bottom fear.
Sure.
That's the limiting belief. Now, digging a little, going, taking it a step further, and going and and identifying where did this even start? Because, as you know, whether theta or non-theta, a lot of our stuff start in our childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, we go through certain situations in our childhood. And that's also part of the soul contract that we have. We need to go through those situations in order for us to fulfill our purpose. So, identifying when was the first time that you felt this feeling of regret, which was when you were 5 years old and being in this daycare and falling down. Identifying the emotions that you were feeling. And then we listed them, which was being embarrassed, being ashamed, being sad, and failing. And then subconsciously, not that at 5 years old you said that and you're like, oh, I'm going to be put together from now on and I'm going to be aware. And like that was the 5 year old you was not thinking that. But subconsciously is what started happening to you. It was like a self defense mechanism that started to build these muscles,
Right.
these positive traits, like being put together. And right, I remember having my very first conversation with you. You're like, I'm gonna go now, and I have an appointment, I have an interview, and I'm gonna go and put my makeup on and get all pretty. And I'm like, you are pretty. What do you mean you're gonna go and put all that stuff? What do you mean? And now it makes sense to me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you enjoy all of that.
Yeah.
Like that's part of who you are, being put together and being beautiful and enhanced, right? Enhancing your natural beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And then the resilience, being resilient, being aware, trusting. You learned about how to trust others and rely on others through these two other children, right, that were there for you. And then empathy and compassion. So you learned all these amazing things. And if you think about it, we started this conversation with you saying, I would be the kind of partner that would put all of my energy and support. I would be compassionate. I would be, supportive of this person, right? And I would
Mm-hmm.
trust this person with all my heart. And so all these amazing positive lessons that you learned from this experience that came out of a regretful experience are all awesome. But what's happening and what's keeping the block there is that they are rooted in this experience where you felt regret, where you felt sadness, where you felt embarrassment, where you felt ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
So underneath that of I want to meet my most compatible soulmate is this idea that what if I regret it? And then what if I regret it? And then what if I feel shame and embarrassment and sadness? And what if I fail at it, right? That's what's
Yeah.
underneath that. So what we would be doing next in the theta healing session is going and literally energetically disconnecting all the amazing positive traits that you learned, the resilience, the awareness, being put together, all of that stuff, the empathy, disconnecting it from the quote unquote negative stuff, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
again, we live in a world of duality, good, bad,
Right.
black, white, right? And they are quote unquote negative things, but look how they served you. These are just emotions. We just label them as negative, right? Either way, though, we got to disconnect them. So you're not walking around, because right now the programming is that I can be compassionate. I don't know how to be compassionate without feeling embarrassed, without feeling ashamed, without feeling sad, right? Consciously, you're like, of course I can be compassionate without that. But subconscious, in that 95% of your brain that is actually running the show and your life, is that that's the programming, because you learned about compassion through this regretful situation. So you
Mm-hmm.
connect compassion with regret. You connect resilience with regret. You connect awareness with regret. You connect being put together with regret and everything that came underneath the regret.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be disconnecting the positive column from the negatives, where it started, and then give you the proper downloads what it means to be aware, what it means to have compassion and to trust others. And trust, right? Trust is one of those things. You learned how to trust your friends at 5 years old.
Yeah.
You could rely on them. But because it came from this experience, this idea of trusting your most compatible soulmate and trusting that relationship is rooted in embarrassment, shame, sadness, and the feeling of failing and regretting it. And so what we'd be doing after disconnecting the two, the positive from the negative, we would be go and pull the belief that if I meet my most compatible soulmate, I will regret it. If I commit to somebody, I will regret it. Mm-hmm. The fear of what happened to you at 5 years old is fueling your desire for meeting somebody. And there are other things that we would go into, this idea and other downloads that we would go into that, why don't you believe that you cannot have them both? You believe that everybody else can have them both, right? But so there are other layers to it, and giving you the proper downloads with that you can have them both, that you don't have to choose between one or the other. And
right.
Then you can allow yourself to be supported by that most compatible soulmate just as much as you are supporting them. And boundaries, I know boundaries is something, right, that came up for us in our session.
Yeah.
And giving and receiving. So I wouldn't be surprised that even if we don't go any further with this particular session, if there are signs of the universe pointing you to the soulmate. And for it to, so what happens is when we clear the energy, then it's like you're at the right time, at the right conference, or you get the right email about that perfect person, whether you're on a plane, like things like happen, like things like the movies, they happen all the time.
Yeah.
All you have to do is clear this stuff up, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about because, I mean, just in how you're talking about this, several things really resonated with me. Like when I was younger in like high school and in my 20s, I would feel embarrassed if I were dating someone or have these weird feelings. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then how this, having these limiting beliefs would have me attract the wrong person to support those beliefs.
Exactly.
And so, I think that this was
to prove your subconscious right. Like that's like the universe is like the subconscious wants to be proved right. So it's gonna project what is inside. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys that are listening and watching, if this is like ringing some bells for you or you're resonating with any of this, definitely connect with Yola because this work, the theta healing and the clearing stuff, the space clearing is super powerful. And, I'm really excited to see what happens, what might shift after this. Maybe I'll get a phone call in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
How exciting.
We can talk for hours.
I know, right? Well, thanks so much, Yola, for joining me today. This was a really fun and juicy conversation. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for choosing your purpose and fulfilling your purpose and having this platform and for having me, of course. And I know that this is the universe is guiding you in the right direction and your most compatible soulmate will support all of this and if not, amplify it and take it even in places that you never even thought possible. So I'm excited to what you're going to manifest. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.